And here we go. The first stop of the day is going to be a major bust. Let's hit it. Retro ReWire, JJ here in the hunt, and I'm back in Akihabara. It's been months since I've last visited the Akiba. And this was filmed on a Saturday, November 8th, so it's going to be super busy. But I didn't let that stop me. I'm out here hunting for PC Engine, Sega Mega Drive, Xbox, PS1, Sega Saturn, all sorts of good stuff. And this is pretty much going to be a little bit raw. We're going to be just jump cutting between shops. And I'm also filming this out of the hotel on a little lavalier mic directly into the camera, so it's not my normal audio setup, so please bear with me. And anyhow, let's just check out this little tiny showcase shop that's in one of the tech malls. I was last here during my last visit, and I picked up Saint Sword. And he still had a few interesting Sega Mega Drive titles, specifically Gaiaris. He's selling it for $19,000. In the previous episode, we saw it for $11,000, although that one was damaged. But Gaiaris, that's also available on the Switch, but it's one that I want to add to the collection. Here, it's going to be this hyper-real rally racing game for the Neo Geo CD by Visco. I forget the exact name, and I believe it also got a port on the Super Famicom, but definitely an interesting one. And this is all this is all that this shop is. Now, it is the first stop of the day for me, which I got here like a little bit before 4 p.m. So I'm not going to commit to anything, just because there's a lot to see, and there's higher priorities. Here we're at Gail World Mobile. A lot of hardware here. A lot of it is going to be sold as junk, untested junk, but they do have a testing station. Look how beautiful that The Legend of Zelda Game & Watch edition is. And then 8,000 yen for the Neo Geo Pocket Color Crystal. That's not too bad of a deal. And again, they have a testing station. They also have like batteries, chargers, and everything you need to test things out. But anyhow, that Neo Geo Pocket Color, this was not even inside the shop. That was at street level. But we got a Twin Famicom coming in at 5,500 yen with mismatching controllers, but I guess that can just add to the charm. Here we got a PS4 Camo Edition for 20,900 yen. And then I'm still after a PS4, but it's a low priority, and I just kind of wanted to see if they had any that were complete in the box. Unfortunately, they didn't. But here we have the prices. The vanilla model is 15,400 yen. I'm after the 1200 series. That kind of gets rid of that little sheen and it's all matte. But here we have a Sega Mega Drive coming in at 5,500 yen. They also had a Mega Drive 2 for 6,600 yen. Now this stuff's not going to be in the best condition, but it could be a little bit cheaper than other shops. So 1,100 for the PS1, which was definitely a bit rough. But again, they got a testing station. If you're going to be coming out here, make sure to test this stuff out. Look at this Dragon Quest Slime Edition, 19,800 yen. They also had the Type O or Type 0 Final Fantasy Edition and then the Vanilla Edition. All sorts of stuff, all sorts of controllers for the PS5, the Switch, the PlayStation 4. They also have a lot of like Switch docks, chargers, all sorts of good stuff. Even this Nintendo GameCube coming in at 3,300 yen. But a nice little shop. I do like Gail World Mobile. And I think the last thing that I picked up from there was a red Cinnabar PS2 Slim, I think. But anyhow, this was filmed on a Saturday, as I mentioned, and it was a bit difficult to film because a lot of these shops have super tight spaces and they get packed, especially on the weekend. But check out this Duke controller for the OG Xbox. 2 of them, as a matter of fact, 5,500 yen. And then 2,800 for the Wonder Swan. It's going to be the original release. And this is at Kandenken or Kenchan's place in another tech mall. And this is a great place to pick up like mod kits, junk handhelds, controllers, a couple video games, or a few video games, of course, and a whole bunch of funky accessories like this thing. I've never seen this before. This is going to be the PlayStation movie card adapter for 4,400 yen. That's kind of wild. And I've never really messed around with the video CD format, and I don't really care to, but it was cool seeing that. Here's Virtua Fighter 2 for 600 yen. If you go to other shops, you can probably find that for like 200 or 100 yen even. But I do like coming here. This is like a must-stop shop for me. 3,300 for the Nintendo DS, and then we got the Nights into Dreams figurine for 2,200. I'm not really into that design. If it was the original, I probably would have scooped that up. Anyhow, let's go in the showcase and see what kind of goodies he's hiding in here. Check these out. These Dreamcast watches, 58 and 68,000 respectively. Now next to that was Swordmaster, and I didn't realize he had that. And that was coming in at 15,800 yen. Now, complete in the box, that could be like 70,000. And I definitely want to try that game out. Here we got F-Zero GX for 5,500 yen. Gunner's Heaven for 8,800. 7,800 for Biohazard 3 on the old Dreamcast. Parodius for 8,800. And I want to say his copies, he has 2 copies of Sonic 3, both coming in at 8,800 yen. I want to say that's competitive with pretty much anywhere else in Japan. That's pretty competitive. Sonic 3 is a pricey one. Here we have Atlantean for the Turbo Graphics, 8,800 yen. I think that's going to be like a newer release type of game. I'm not really sure. I don't know much about it. But let's see what else he has. We got the Nomad. That's not for sale. That thing has been in there for years. And it looks like he has Waku Waku 7 there for the Dreamcast, although it's the big box version. Here we have Gigawing for 5,800 yen. I was recently playing that on the Switch. Great game. And I may want to pick up a physical copy now on the Dreamcast. Y'all know how it goes. 6,000 there for the Action Replay 3. We got some FN Towns Marty, Orange Spice GameCube controller, a Game Boy Color for 13,000. And then look at this beautiful PSP Camo Edition. 16,500 yen. Now, handhelds, well, first of all, look at this Guardian Heroes pouch. 5,500 yen, little promo item. But you know, handhelds in Akihabara, they can be pretty expensive. And it might not be the best place to pick one up if you're after like complete. You might want to shop around a little bit for that. That's my advice. But, you know, if time is limited, like this, 19,800 for this Neo Geo Pocket Color with the Samurai Showdown game. I don't know, that might not be too bad, I guess. Here we got some assortment of titles. Nothing really interesting, except we have Judgment Silver Sword on the Wonder Swan Crystal. Check out the price on that bad boy. 168,000. Anyhow, next to that is going to be this unused faceplate for the Game Boy Micro for 24,800. And he had the Game Boy Micro behind that for 50,000. Now we're at Super Potato. Let's do a little bit of window shopping. It's great to see all this rare stuff. Some of it's rare, some of it's not really rare. We got Vampire Killer, 102,080 yen. Let's go higher than that. Why stop? 492,800 yen for Eliminate Down. Battle Mania the sequel, 327,800 yen. Slap Fight for 49,200 yen. They also had Comic Zone, which was matching the price on Eliminate Down. We got Contra the Hardcore with a whole bunch of notes. Look at that. It's like a little mini novel there. And we got Golden Axe 2, Bare Knuckle 3, Super Famicom stuff. We have The Mask, 32,780. I believe the Super Nintendo version is also expensive. 140,800 yen for Justice League. And guys, we're just window shopping. We're not going to commit to anything. We got Rainbow Cotton, 23,980. We got Power Stone 2 and then Bangayo for 16,280. I recently saw this one out in Chiba, and it was about 5,000 yen less. Here we have Final Fight Revenge, 65,780. And I believe that thing was released in 2000. That's super late release for the Sega Saturn. By 2000, I mean, most people had forgotten about the Saturn. They moved on to other areas, other machines. The Dreamcast, PS2 was on the horizon. Here we got some loose cards for the old Super Famicom. Captain Commando there. Check out this Pitfall, 12,980 just for a loose card. They also had Super Turricane in there. Turricane, as I like to mispronounce it. ActRaiser 2 for 18,480. We'll see that one again, and we're going to see it for far less. But, you know, I do want to say this. And we'll see more of it later on as the video progresses. This is going to be a long video, by the way, but there was some pretty decent deals, like $27,280 for cotton 100%. I don't really mean that specific price, but I will say that in Kisarazu, in the previous video, they had cotton 100% for $40,000. So even Super Potato has them beat. But other shops, they had some pretty good prices, and sometimes I'm even questioning why if it even makes sense to head out too far just for the sake of trying to find a deal on some of this stuff, because some of these shops out in Akihabara are definitely competitive with other shops across Japan. Anyhow, so much great Sega software. Look at that. Comic Zone, 492, 800 yen. That was a late release on the Sega Mega Drive. Let's take a look at some GBA. Now, I've been playing a lot of GBA. Super Mario Bros. 3. I'm on World 6. Great game. A classic game. Here we have Akumajo. 3,608. I do want a copy of that, but that's something that I'd rather have complete. But specifically what I was looking for in here, not that I was going to buy it, I just wanted to see, was Street Fighter 03 for the Game Boy Advance. I would love a copy of that, but all in due time, all in due time. In fact, I've been kind of thinking about picking up a Game Boy Micro. Those things look pretty cool, man. And the fact that they have like the headphone jack, the cool screen, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the bug hits, if the bug bites. Here we have some Game Boy titles. We got Toshinden for 11,880. Puzzle Bobble Jr. And this Magical Chase. What's that? 184,800 yen. I'm not really sure what kind of game that is. I don't know. I'm not an expert on Game Boy Color games or Game Boy at large, but what do we have? Jewel Master, 6,468. And then we have Thunder Force 2, 5,038 yen. 7,788 for the Super Shinobi. And another copy for 76.78. Now, I can't remember, but I don't think Super Potato is a tax-free shop. That was Alien Syndrome for 62.48, and then Mystic Defender, which the original game was on both the Famicom and the Master System. Here we have Phelios for 6,358. But again, if you're after Mega Drive games, a great place to check out in Akihabara is Trader, and we're definitely going to be hitting up Trader in this video. Stay tuned. We got Rockman, what's that? Mega World, Wily World, which combines Mega Man 1, 2, and 3. What else do we have here? It's great to see this stuff. But just around the corner, you know, they had the Dreamcast, the Sega Saturn stuff, and a whole bunch of people. This is where it was getting really difficult to film. People were pouring in. And it's kind of funny too, because you see a bunch of dudes like shopping, and they just kind of bring in their spouses, girlfriends, you know, they're just kind of like following them around. Some of them look so disinterested. But that's how it goes in the game of game hunting. We got Virtual Racing, 3,168 yen. And I've definitely put my wife in that situation. I'm no different. Dynamite Deca, 4,928. What else do they got in here? Virus, 1,958. They got some Jellico games there. Now, I didn't dig too deep in here just because this area, everybody's just kind of... It's like a circuit in here, you know? This is where everybody like does the sharp right turn. Just kind of in and out of the aisles. Vampire Chronicles for 63.58 and Fighting Vipers 2 for the same price. Fighting Vipers 2 was in the previous episode for like about, what, 2,000 yen? But it was way out in Kisarazu. Here we got some hardware. Now, you know, This is a cool Dreamcast Sakura edition, but I don't really recommend buying hardware at Super Potato unless it's at like a really good price, because you could definitely find a lot of this stuff for less. But some of the stuff you may not find at all, like this. We got the V Saturn. This is the Model 2, the JX2 by old JVC Victor. I used to have this, and I picked it up at Kenchan's place for 3,000 yen. That was like about 4 or 5 years ago. I don't have it anymore. I ended up selling it. And then here we have Crisis Force, 15,180 yen. Which, you know, I've seen that game for that same price, you know, out in like places like Tochigi Prefecture. So we got an old bonk there for 4,928. A lot of good Famicom stuff in here. Of course, it's Super Potato, man. Alba Docs, I don't really know. This is the fourth floor. Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast for the PlayStation Portable, 14,000 and some change. I still don't have a copy of that, although I have owned it in the past. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 for 9,878. That thing has been in this showcase for like years now. Got a couple Capcom Classics collection for the old Xbox. And then Ninja 5.0, 217,800 yen next to Care Bears. A couple loose carts there. And they also had R-Type 3 for the Game Boy Advance in the box. 32,780. I think you could find that for less on eBay even. Although that port definitely took a hit with the audio. The Super Nintendo version is far superior in that respect. 32,780 for Royal Pro Wrestling for the 3DO. That is sealed. And that was developed by Natsume. I believe it was. At least their name is on the case. Maybe they just published it. I don't know. Let's just keep making our way. We got some Neo Geo AES action. That's coming in over 100,000, by the way. We got an Xbox here. All sorts of hardware. But, you know, despite the prices that we've seen, I still haven't lost hope. I was still at the time just kind of keeping my eyes peeled. Here we have Sexy Parodius for 14,080 yen. I recently picked up a copy of that for 9,000 and some change. Raiden DX, beautiful game, excellent game. And then we got some arcade gears with a couple of Ireme games. And then Castlevania Chronicles, Akumajo, love that game. And then Cotton. Now this is going to be the budget re-release. And this game, this Cotton game for the PlayStation, is still available on the Japanese PlayStation Network store for the PS3. And it's like about like 600 and some change. 600 and something yen. But all sorts of shooters here. I do like the shooters for the PS1, I'm not going to lie. I do have a little bit of a double dipping going on between Saturn and PlayStation shooters. And then all sorts of perfect catalogs. Look at that. Look at that. Just everything. And multiple different publishers. Everybody's getting in on the action. And they also have Xbox. It's probably like the most loneliest part of the store. Let's take a look. Dodonpachi there. Extra edition. 5,478. And then Samurai Spirit Sen. I do want a copy of this. That's like the one Samurai Showdown game apart from the Neo Geo 64 versions that I don't own. And speaking of Neo Geo 64, SNK needs to get on it and start releasing compilations of that. 14,000 for Spike Out. Momotaro Kingdom has it for 7,000. That's like 50% off. But it is out in Kisarazu. Not everybody has the time to head out there. What is this? Castle of Shikigami. We got some Breakdown by Namco for the old Xbox. They also had, what was that? Wolverine X2. Anyhow, we just took a quick peek. Sega Saturn Perfect Catalog. Now, in this little dinky corner, this is where they have the imports. They got a few imports in here. And I had a pickup here. And it's not going to be this Andretti Racing for, what was that, 2,000 and some change? We got the Barcode Battler 2. And I was about to leave, but then on the corner of my eye, this is the pickup, freaking Splatterhouse on the 360, 3,828. I think that's a fair deal for that game. I originally played it for the PlayStation 3. I don't have that copy anymore, so being a big fan of Splatterhouse, I saw the game and I was like, might as well pick it up. Might as well. And this is kind of one of those games that's not necessarily on my wish list. A little bit of an impulse buy, but, you know, no regrets there. No regrets. Let's just keep looking here. Let's now that I found that one, as you saw, I was just kind of like scanning again. Like a freaking predator. We got Samurai Showdown 5698. That's a great game on the 3DO, by the way. In fact, there was one 3DO game. I didn't pick it up, but I'm interested, which is going to be this Off-World Interceptor by Crystal Dynamics. Now, this was also released for the PS1 and the Sega Saturn, but I'm more interested in the 3DO. I've been playing 3DO as of late once again. And it's just one of those things, you know, you get back into a certain platform. It comes and goes like waves. Let's check out some Neo Geo action here. They had one interesting title, and I think it is legit, which is this Fatal Fury 3. This is the North American edition for 7,678. And it was looking kind of suspicious to me, but then like in the corner there, you can see the little Neo Geo logo embossed on the jewel case. And I think if it was like a reprint, this being Super Potato, they would probably state that. But that's kind of cool seeing a North American Neo Geo CD game. We got King of Fighters 96. What else do we got in here? In the stacks, KOF 98 for 8,778. Now that's one that if you look, you can find that for like 3,000, sometimes 2,500. I think that's what I paid. I'm not sure what this is, but it is by Saris, and it is available as part of the Arcade Archives by Ol Hamster. It's a fighting game, and it uses like the pre-rendered graphics, which was customary for Saris. I think their big claim to fame is going to be Ironclad, at least for me. And that game is freaking expensive. In fact, speaking of expensive, let's go with the top tier stuff, and it ain't going to be like these little cards or whatever the heck that is. It's going to be the stuff in these showcases. We got the Sega CDX, 140,800 yen. That thing has been there for years, as has a lot of this Neo Geo stuff. And they had Magician Lord, 97,900 yen, but they also had Metal Slug 2 and Part 4. Part 2, Sun Faded, even Sun Faded, 690,000 and some change. My goodness. I think Metal Slug will never happen for me on the AES, but I don't know. You just never know, I guess. Here we got a PC Engine LT, 272,000 and some change. Now that one has, again, that's something that's been in the showcase for years. And it's got some notes with some exclamation points, so that's a good sign. Freaking PC Engine LT. What is this? Magical Chase? 195,800 yen. Now, they do have a copy at Trader, and it's far less expensive. Here we have Sylphia and then Koryun for 129,800 yen. I do want a copy of Sylphia. And you can find it for far less, although Sylphia is a bit of a rare game. It is. All sorts of Neo Geo CD stuff. Feel free to pause, you know. It's kind of hard to name everything as... But what do we have? Little Ralph there. 118,800 yen. But keep in mind, this is Super Potato. If other shops happen to have it, most likely it'll be less. We got the Neo Geo Pad USB. PS1 books of Symphony of the Night. And then the Cave shooting collection for the old 360. R-Type Final sealed to 16,000. That's a cool game. And then Metal Slug 3 for the Xbox, 10,780. Now, we saw it in the previous episode for 6,500, and then a couple weeks ago we saw it again for 5,000. So there's definitely plenty of copies of Metal Slug 3 for the Xbox with the sleeve for far less. This is going to be the Lightning PS3 edition. 65,780. It's kind of a funky box. Now this is, I don't know what the heck is up with this PS5. I didn't see a price on it. Not that I was going to buy it, but maybe it was junk. I don't know. The box looks a little bit rough. It looks a little bit rough. And this section of the store was busy. People are buying stuff. But there's more people just kind of browsing around. Anyhow, what do we got here? What do we got? Wonder Swan. That's like the little headphone adapter. I picked one of those up for like 3,000 in Dotonbori in Osaka. At the Surugaya outlet store. 195,800 yen for the Zelda Game & Watch. This is the original. That's a hardcore collector's item in the box. And they also had like these early Super Mario Bros. Ones. 245,300 yen. Beautiful looking things. In fact, you know, why act surprised? We all know where we're at. We all know where we're at, Super Potato. But I was super happy with that Splatterhouse pickup. This is also a great place to pick up like protective sleeves. You know, for like Super Famicom, Sega Mega Drive, Game Boy. And look at all this delicious PC Engine stuff. Premium stuff in here. But boy, oh boy. I think right now one of the best places to buy for, you know, games for the PC Engine is going to be Trader in Akihabara. I had a couple pickups, and we'll definitely see those later in the video. Pretty cool seeing these toys in there. We're still at Super Potato. This is the PC Engine section. I just wanted to show a little bit of this. That was Mr. Heli for 5,000 and some change. 6,028 for Paranoia. And then Chase HQ for 6,000 and some change. Splatterhouse for 15,070 yen. And then Kadash for 14,080 yen. But quite a bit of titles there. Again, this section, you know, is often typically ignored. Here we have a Neo Geo. Check out the price. 38,280. Psych. That's an old price. Look at this. This is the real price. 162,800 yen. If it was at that price, dang, man. I probably wouldn't have picked it up. I got a pretty good deal. I have two Neo Geo AES at the moment. A Revision 3.5 and 3.6. Beautiful PC Engine Hori controller. They also released one in the same design for the Famicom, which has a beautiful combination of colors. And the old AES KOF 99, that's my favorite. 43,780. And then this is a pretty rare Mario figurine. And we're back on the third floor. Let's take a look at some of these handhelds. As you can see, premium stuff in here. And there they are, the Game Boy Micro. 60,280 for the Final Fantasy one, I believe. We got that lime-looking green Game Boy Advance. We got some kind of cable. 27,280 for the faceplates. A Game Boy Light. That's such a weird design with the Space Lady or whatever the heck that is. And then here we have some lime green action. And then we're going to end things here at Super Potato. We're going to continue on, but they had quite a bit of selection there for Game Gear. Although, forget about filming here. It's right at the entrance. People are constantly coming in and out, in and out. Not the best place, but it is Game Gear. Not everybody's after Game Gear. Look at that, crash test dummies. I didn't realize they had a game. This is Lashinbang. I believe that's the name of the place. And they had a freaking Apple Pippin. Look at that. 49,800 yen. That's a rare machine, the Pippin. And in the box, too. They got an FZ1 for 24,800 yen. I wonder what kind of games are available on the freaking Pippin. Has such a weird design, too. I need to look up a video on the Pippin. Not that I'm going to go down that rabbit hole. No, thank you. 15,800 yen for this PS4. Every now and then I find some decent stuff. I think the last game that I picked up here was a Psycho Chaser for 4,000. 4,000 and some change. We got Third Strike. That includes, not Third Strike, but Part 1 and Second Impact. A great collection on the Dreamcast. Fantasy Zone, 2,280. I hear the PC Engine port's not that great. We got Total Eclipse for 1,680 on the old 3DO. I'm actively collecting for the 3DO, so Return Fire, 3,000 and some change. But there wasn't anything... Well, this kind of looks interesting. I'm not really sure what this is about. Maybe I should look into that one. For the 3DO, the Horde. What else do we have? Nectaris there. And then this is their showcase. They had a Wonder Mega, 278,000. And there's two versions of the Wonder Mega. One of them is more premium. I believe the Sega branded one is more premium. Here we have Bucky O'Hare for 69,800 yen. Now, a lot of this stuff has been in here for months. And they have the showcase near the escalator towards the exit, which may not be the best place because I think by that time, when people reach that area of the store, they're ready to go home. 5,580 for Gunbird 2 and 7,780 for Rez. Those are pretty competitive prices, I would say, for those two games. 3,380 for Aladdin. Could be missing some stuff and some damage there. We got a Neo Geo for 118,000. And there was a white Game Gear there with the case for 99,800 yen. That one has been here for quite some time. Toy Shop Boys, 3,980. It's kind of a funny name. We got Famicom stuff, Salamander there. Hokuto no Ken, and then look how clean this copy of Final Fantasy is. 39,800 yen. Above that is Rockman, but look how clean that is. Typically, when you see those, it's pretty dirty. But here we go. We're at Trader. F-Zero Climax. That's the one that I was thinking about in the previous video. Super expensive. 20,800 yen there for Castlevania. What is that one again? I forget. It's non-canon, though. And then Hook. 50,800 yen for Hook on the old Game Boy. Contra Spirits there. That's a great game. Phalanx. 22,680. I wonder how the Game Boy Advance port holds up against the Super Nintendo version. And that game is also available for the X68000 PC. Another copy of Ninja 5.0, 157,000. People love that game. We got some Kiki Kai Kai. With I think one of those is the sequel, the one that's not sun faded. And they also had Ninja Warriors once again. I do want a copy of that, but it's going to be a pricey one for sure. And Cotton 100%, 22,000. There's so many copies of Cotton 100% in Akihabara at the moment. I think that's like that makes like 5 that we've seen so far. Hagane there for 30,800 yen. Love Hagane. And as you can see, this is busy. This place is busy. All sorts of shooters for the Switch. The Switch is just masterclass when it comes to shooting. Those Toa Plan arcade collections, I do want Volume 1. But I wonder how they hold up, them being City Connection releases. Look how beautiful all the Neo Geo selections look together. How many of you have all of them? I don't have a single one yet. I don't know if I'm going to get any of them, but I don't know. They look pretty cool. This is going to be the import section. I was hoping to find a copy of Alan Wake 2 for the Xbox Series X. I want to really play that game. The first Alan Wake was freaking awesome. We got some Paperboy for the Super Nintendo. What else do we have? Oh yeah, Oniken and Odalis. 59 or 5,980. For a while, that bundle, people were kind of going crazy over it. And those games, the digital releases, they're constantly on sale. Sometimes on the Japanese eShop for like 200 yen, if that. We got Rushing Beat. They had some pretty good selection here, or collection of Super Famicom games. Actually, for a lot of systems. For quite a bit. Let's see what we find here. Look at this. Street Fighter Zero. 10,600 yen. That's definitely the lowest that I've seen. Now, I didn't take a peek at the notes, but this one's coming at 10,500 yen, and I think the box is damaged, but typically when I see that game, like the average price seems to be about 16,000. Here we have Donald Duck and Maui Mallard. I do want to play that. And then Turtles Mutant Warriors. What was that price? Like 6,000 or 8,000, something like that? I recently saw a copy out in Konosu, and it was like 16,000 for that Turtles fighting game. Here we have Unholy Night for 10,600 yen. That could be... I don't think that's like an official release. The Fireman for 9,500 yen. I would like to play that game. It looks like it's pretty fun. Here they have another copy for 100 yen more. And I do like the cover. I do like that art style for the Fireman. With the sequel being on the PS1, here we have ActRaiser 2, 9,600 yen. I really want to play this. It looks like it's really cool, and it's gonna. I think that one is just straight up action, which is definitely more up my alley than part one's like light sim parts. And here we have Axelay. Look at this. 12,300 yen, but severely faded. This is going to be a hard one to pick up in like mint condition if that's what you're after. Those copies are in collector's hands. Here we have X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, 13,500 yen. I remember picking up a copy many years ago at KB Toys at the Blue Mountain Mall in Walla Walla, Washington, which no longer exists. Even the actual building got demolished. What else do we have? This is just the first floor too. They got some Pokemon, but we're not really going to touch that. Just keep it moving here. We got all sorts of handheld stuff. Now, I didn't go too much into detail here just because, well, look at this. We got the pocket sonar. 27,800 yen. And I wonder if people were actually using this thing and how well it worked. A lot of junk stuff here. Look at that. 300, 780. You can get some decent games in there. We got the Super Nintendo Mini for 29,800 yen. Now, the Super Famicom Mini, far less expensive. And then here we got a Game Boy Micro, 18,000. Now, it is junk, and apparently it's saying that they can't get it to power on. Here we got the Pocket Player Pro for 6,980. I think that takes the carts, like I forget what company released like those carts, but this Castlevania Bloodlines, the North American edition, 29,500 yen. That thing has been in there for like years now, and it's getting worse. The sun fading or the fading, it's getting worse. 118,000 there for Psychic Assassin on the old Sega Saturn. I do want a copy of that. 68,800 yen for 1941 for the PC Engine Super Graphics. 27,800 yen for Magician Lord. 23,800 for Soldier Blade. G-Vector there. Now, 177,500 yen for this Super CD ROM. I think that was like the final release on the PC Engine, like in 1995. Outrun 2006, Coast to Coast. That's going to be the European version. But that game, along with the North American edition, they are region-free. Region-free, then we have Waku Waku 7, 227,000, and then we have the Astrobot controller. I didn't even notice the Ghosts of Yote PS5. because I was so fixated on that Astrobot controller. Beautiful piece. 26,600 yen for Ibara on the PS2, a cave shooter. Duke Nukem Forever for 24,800 yen. What's going on? Not really sure there. Sonic and Knuckles, 37,000. We got, what's that? Stellar Assault on the 32X for 28. And then they also had Rockman there for the Mega Drive for 29. So less expensive than Super Potato. That's not hard to believe. What else do we got? We got some PS2 Slims. I should bring my PS2 Slim with me out to the hotel. I want to play some PS2. We got Soul Calibur 4, 600 yen. And then Fallen Angels Sacred 2. We got Death Smiles. This is all for the Xbox. Now, I did have a pickup here. I found a crazy pickup. Jet Set Radio Future for 2,900 yen. Double Steel there for 1,400. Tecmo Classics Arcade. Mech Assault 2 Lone Wolf. I don't think I show that pickup. I'll save it for like my pickups video. But Crazy Taxi 3, 2,400 yen. That's an excellent game. And the reason why I didn't show it is because I found it after I put the camera away. But it was a good one. Very, very good. What else do we have here? We got Makaimura Kai. Ultimate Makaimura there. That's the one to get too, the Kai version. It gets rid of all that RPG craziness and then just straight up action game like before. What do we have here? Oh, look at that. Virtual On. That was the Virtual On robot for some PS Vita game that I have no clue. And Sega Saturn. They had some pretty good stuff in here for the Sega Saturn. 15,800 yen there for the little flight controller. Typically that one's like 30,000. 4,880 for X-Men vs. Street Fighter. Area 51, 3,700 yen. I have this on the PS1. I think I'm good with the PS1 version, although it would be nice to have the Saturn one, but I think the PS1 version may be superior. Then we got Mr. Bones. Look at that, 2,880. That's a really good price. 7,480 for Metal Black. Great game, but it's also available on many modern platforms. We got Power Drift, 7,480. Now, these prices are definitely competitive with what you can expect to find outside of Tokyo, the Kanto region. We got Death Crimson for 16,500 yen. That's going to be a light gun shooter. And what else do we have in here? There's a lot of good stuff. I found more stuff after I stopped filming. But, man, Trader, you got it. Y'all should hit this place up. A lot of good stuff. A lot of good Sega stuff. And the prices are pretty good. Now, with regard to hardware, the hardware is going to be a little bit more expensive, of course. That was Third Strike for 3,980. 2,200 for Capcom versus SNK. They also had Outrigger there. And Sega Master System. 32X, Sega Mega Drive. Then we got Rolling Thunder 2 for 8,500 yen. It's crazy, you know, Namco had some pretty good support on the old Sega Mega Drive. I mean, look at this. Splatterhouse 2, which was an exclusive title, for 16,700 yen. Next to old Saint Sword. I do like that Saint Sword. I was thinking I would get rid of it, but now I'm definitely keeping it. Fire Mustang for 9,600 yen. We got old Darwin, 4081 for 3,780. Jewel Master, 5,300 yen. So all these prices lower than old Super Potato. Somewhat, not by much, but you know they are lower. We got Batman here for 16,400 yen. This is by Sunsoft, I believe. They had like those little micro cases for the Mega Drive. And we have Gradius Gopher 2, 7,480. And check this out. 12,700 yen. But what's the name of this? Kaiden 00. Now that also is available on the Switch now. 9,300 yen for Winds of Thunder. And then Cotton for 15,700 yen. And then Super Raiden, 11,400 yen. Now the manual was a bit rough, but I do want a copy of this. I have it on the old Sega, the Mega Drive, but I hear that one's pretty good. Now this is Sofmap. Now at first I was thinking that Rockman was 34,980, but there's a 1 in front of the 3. Some of the games here are just, I think the pricing is unrealistic on some of these titles. I don't know. We got F-Zero, that's like the second release, I think, for 6,280. I think there's a total of 3 games. So we have Final Fight 1. I would like a copy of that. But yeah, I think there's 3 F-Zero games for the old GBA. 7,280 for the Dreamcast arcade stick. 16,480 for the PC Engine. 9,980 for the Mega Drive Mini, which isn't a bad price. 6,000 for the Famicom Mini. But look at this, 19,980 for Contra, just the loose cart. That's crazy. You could still find that one for like 2,000 yen. 9,880 for the PlayStation Vita. And they got some stacks in here. 5,980 for the Game Boy player, the Game Boy Advance player on the Cube with the box. That's in today's day and age, and considering that we're in Akihabara, that's a pretty good price. And then we have Twinkle Tail. I thought it was 49,980, but there's a 1 in front of the 4. If it was 49,000, dang, that's the one to think about. What else do we have? We got some SNK versus Capcom SBC Chaos for the Xbox, 21,000. Now the big one here is going to be Rayman 2 for the Dreamcast, 6,580. That's like the definitive edition. And I want to say it's a bit rare. I don't often see that one for the Dreamcast. And I would love to have a copy of it. It was also released on the PlayStation 2, the N64, and even the 3DS. But it's all about that Sega Dreamcast version. We got an FZ1 for 19,980. Just go to Lashinbang. You get it with the box. Super Back to the Future 2, Street Fighter 02, 14,480. So yeah, some of the prices here are a bit local. We got some Ninja Gaiden, 9,980 for the disc drive, and look at this, the 30th anniversary, 89,980. That thing looks beautiful. Sony recently announced like a region-locked PS5 for Japan. That's kind of interesting. At the moment, I don't have a PS5, but guys, this is where we're going to end things. Look at this price, 8,780 for the PSP. That's not bad. That's not bad. But I'm hoping to be back in Akihabara soonish. It's a great place. Great place, and mini shops. And for the things that I'm after, I'm going to be honest, like a lot of the stuff that I'm after is in the showcase. Here we got an Xbox One, 12,980. That's a 1 terabyte. But a lot of the stuff that I'm after is in the showcase. And there isn't going to be too much of a price difference, right? And I think if you sell your stuff here at a store like Retro Game Camp, they have pretty good purchasing prices, which a lot of these places will list what they offer on games on their websites. And here we got some even PS2s. Look at that, PlayStation 4s. But Akihabara, good old Akihabara. That's not a bad deal on this PSP, by the way. Look at that color, beautiful. But anyhow, JJ Retro ReWire. Ciao.